We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis in Meseches Bava Metzia. This is Bava Metzia Daf 33b. On the previous summit, the Gemara asked a contradiction within a brisa. The brisa said that learning Gemara is the greatest, but then it said you have to be careful to learn Mishnayos. And so the Gemara now answers. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Bimei Rebbe Nishnis Mishnazu." This Mishnah, this brisa, really was taught in the times of Rebbe. Shavku Kuli Alma Masnisa. What happened was everybody abandoned the Mishnayos because they heard that Gemara is so great. V'yazlu basu Gemara. They followed after the Gemara, and so therefore Hadar Darash Lu. That's why he then darshan to them, and he said, "Uliolam have a rotz Mishnah Yosem and HaGemara." You should run to Mishnah more than Gemara because you have to have a solid foundation to learn the Gemara. Rashi explains, "Bimei Rebbe Nishnis Mishnazu Hadakatani Gemara Ein Lachmida Gedola Mizu." When it says that there's nothing greater than Gemara, that was in the times of Rebbe. Lefi Shemisha Rabu Talmidei Shammai v'Hillel, because when there was an increase in the students of Shammai and Hillel, Shayu Lafan of Shlosha Doros, that was 3 generations before Rebbe. Rabu Machlukas b'Torah, there was more arguments. There increased arguments in Torah. V'Nazis Kishtei Torahs, it was like 2 different Torahs. Mitochal Shibad Malchias, that was because of the fact that they were under the Golus. Ugzerus, they were under decrees. Shayu Gozran, and there were decrees against the Jewish people. And that's why they weren't able to pay attention to clarify the matters of the arguments at Yom Shel Rebbe until the days of Rebbe, because at that time he found favor in the eyes of Antoninus, the king of Rome, like they said in Avodah Zarah, they stopped being all this oppression, and he was able to gather together all the students of Eretz Yisrael, and until his days, the Mesechtes were not arranged. Anybody who learned something from someone greater than him would learn it, would review it, and he would have some kind of simonim in order to remember halacha plonis uplonis shamati mishem ploni. I learned this and this halacha from so and so. Then what happened was, when they all gathered together, everybody said over what they heard, and then they paid attention to clarify the reasonings of the arguments. Divrei miru'uyin l'kayim, who should we uphold and who not? V'sidra ha-mesechtas divrei nezikin levadim v'divrei yevamis levadim v'divrei kodshim levadim, and they organized the mesechtas, things that had to do with nezikin in its own order, and things with yevamis on their own, and things with kodshim on their own. V'sasam nami b'mishnah divrei yechidim, and they also put into the Mishnah some individual opinions, some minority opinions, shara Rebbe es divreim, which Rebbe saw that their words were worth noting. V'shanan stam kedei likvo halacha kamosim, and he would learn those unattributed to show that the halacha was like them. That's why they say by the Gemara there's nothing greater. That the idea is you should pay attention to understand the reasoning of the Mishnah. But then and everybody abandoned the Mishnayos. They didn't go over the Mishnayos. And they followed after the Gemara to try to think logically through it. So then Hadar Darashlu Haviratz Mishnah. So then he darshan to them to run to the Mishnayos. He was afraid Mishnayos would be forgotten. They would switch around the names of the Chacham. By accident, by Chiyav, they might say something is Pater. Something that was forbidden, they would say it's Mutter. And so that's why he said you have to go back to Mishnayos. And the Gemara continues, "My Derosh," what drasha was made, this in terms of the supremacy of Gemara. Rashi says, "My Derosh mitchila k'shedarash Gemara gadol." What did he darshan from the outset originally? When he darshan that Gemara is so great, that was kedidarash Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi. That was like the drasha made by Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi. My Dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? This is a pasuk in Yeshayahu. It says, "Haged li'ami pisham u'leveis Yaakov chatasam." It says, "Tell my nation their sin, tell Beis Yaakov their sin." What the pasuk means is as follows: Haged li'ami pisham. Tell them their sin. That refers to the Talmidei Chachamim. Pisham refers to doing something with negligence, doing something almost on purpose. And the idea is that by Talmidei Chachamim, sheshagagos nasos lam kisdonos. By Talmidei Chachamim, even something they do like a mistake is considered as though it was done on purpose. Uleveis Yaakov chatasim, and to the house of Yaakov, tell them their sins. A chatos is generally something that was by mistake. Elu amei haaretz, that refers to the amei haaretz, the regular people. Shezidonos nasos lam kishkagos, that even something they do on purpose, but for them it's like a mistake because they don't really know. V'hainu d'tanan, that's what we learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Havezor b'Talmud." You have to be careful when you're learning Talmud. You have to be careful in the learning of the reasonings. Sheshigagas Talmud ola zaden, because if you make a mistake in terms of Talmud, in terms of Gemara, that actually can cause what we would understand to be a purposeful sin. And Rashi explains, "My drosh mitchila k'shadarash a Gemara gadol." What was the original drasha when he darshaned that Gemara is so great? La'ami pisham, to my nation, their negligence. Ami dahainu talmidei chachamim. That refers to talmidei chachamim. The word ami. As chatasam ani korei pesha. The idea is even their mistake and sin, we call that a pesha. We call that on purpose. Shayol lahem laseis lei b'tami mishnasam, because they should pay attention to the reasons of their mishnah. Sheyavaru lahem alu ikar. They should clarify. V'lo yoro halacha mitoch mishnah she'ein ikar. They shouldn't paskin halacha from a mishnah that's not considered to be a main authoritative mishnah. Uleves Yaakov Sharam. Now to the rest of the people, chatasam afilu pasha shalom ani korei chatas. Even their negligence, we refer to that as a chatas, and that's what it means. Havezor b'Talmud b'Gemara. Be careful by Gemara. She teirutz tamei mishnayis. That answers up the reasoning of the mishnayis. So tishma dvar mishnah meirav chizor lishol time of mishana. If you hear something that has to do with a mishnah from your rebbe, you have to be careful to ask what is the reason, who taught that mishnah. And Rashi continues, shashigagas Talmud means to say if you make a mistake in Gemara, shagisa b'hora b'shigas Talmud. If you make a mistake in paskin because you're learning shlo yadat tam mishnah that you didn't know the reason of the mishnah, you gave a different reason, and we told kach the misa ladin ohora shabal yotcha, and therefore you said some halacha v'lamaratohem, and you learned from there shalo kadas, and it was improper. Shein hatam kamoshi yisasavar. The reason was not like what you thought. Shilu yadat tam mishnah lo demisa la ma'isa habal yotcha. Because if you knew the reason, you wouldn't have compared the case that came before you to that mishnah. Ola zadan. That's like a purposeful mistake. Onash ato alek kimezid. You're punished as though you did it on purpose. It's considered to be something that was done on purpose, a purposeful sin, because you didn't ask the reason from your Rebbe. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi, Darshans Ma'idechsiv. What does it mean when it's written in the Pasuk also in Yeshayahu, Shimu Dvar Hashem HaCharedim El Devaro? It says, listen to those who tremble at the word of Hashem. Elu Talmidei Chachamim. That refers to the Talmidei Chachamim, the scholars. And the Pasuk goes on to say, Amru Acheichem. It says, your brothers. That refers to Elu Balei Mikra. That's the people who learn Psukim. And then it says, Sonechem, those who hate you, Elu Balei Mishnah. That refers to those who learn Mishnah. And Menadechem, those who ostracize you, Elu Amei Haaretz. That refers to the Amei Haaretz, the common people. Shema Tomar Pasak Sivram Avatal Sichuya. Maybe you'll say that with these Amei Haaretz, their entire hope, it's all lost. They'll never be redeemed, so to speak. Talmud Lomar V'nira B'simchaschem. It says that we'll see in your happiness. Shema Tomar Yisrael Yevoshu. Maybe you'll say that the Jewish people will be ashamed. Talmud Lomar V'heim Yevoshu. It says they will be ashamed. Ovdei Kochavim Yevoshu means that the idol worshippers will be ashamed. V'Yisrael Yismechu. But Yisrael, the Jewish people, they will celebrate. They will be happy. And Rashi explains the beginning of the pasuk refers to Elu Talmidei Chachamim. It refers to the Talmidei Chachamim Sheshimshu Chachamim Harbe. The idea is that they learn from many Chachamim. L'lamdam Taimim Mishnasim, to learn the reasons of their Mishnah. Zeb Bazu v'Zeb Bazu, the different ones. Shein HaKol B'kim B'Shavim, because not everyone is an equal expert, so you learn from many people. And so Neichem Elu Balei Mishnah, those who hate you, that refers to those who learn Mishnayos. That means Shesonin Balei Gemara, the people who learn Mishnah hate the Balei Gemara. L'fisha Balei Gemara Omrim Al Balei Mishnah, because the people who learn Gemara say about the Balei Mishnah Shein Mevali Olam, that they destroy the world because they don't understand the Mishnayos. Kedamrin Meseches Sota Hatanoim Mevali Olam. The Tanoim are Mevali Olam Shemorim Halachim Mitoch Mishnasam. They paskin halacha from their Mishnayos, but again, without exploring the reasonings of the Mishnayos, you can't paskin. Menadechem Elu Amei Haaretz. Those who ostracize you, that's the Amei Haaretz. Shetalmidei Chacham Snuin Musuavin Lehen Kanida, because to the Amei Haaretz, the Talmidei Chachamim are hated to them. They hate the Talmidei Chachamim. They're disgusting, like a nida, so to speak. To the Talmidei Chachamim are disgusting to the Amei Haaretz. And Rashi continues, Shema Tomar Avad Sivra. Maybe you'll say that they have no hope. Shalelu, these people have no hope. Sharek Siv Laman Shmiyich Bar Hashem, because it talks about that there should be honor to Hashem. Demashma Shehem Omrim. It sounds like that's what they're saying. Aval Ein Hadover Kain, but it's not really true. Talmud Lomar V'nira B'simchaschem. It says that we will see your simcha. V'lo Nemar Vo'era B'simchaschem. It doesn't say that I will see in your happiness. Kach Omer Hanavi. This is what the Navi is saying. Ani v'achechem sonechem u'minadechem. Myself and your brothers, those who hate you, those who ostracize you, kulanu nira b'simchaschem. We're all going to see in your celebration. The idea is that there is hope for them. V'heim yevoshu, and they're going to be ashamed. That means osam shem ovdei kochavim, those who worship the idols. She'enam imenu, that they're not part of the nation. Ve'ena nikran al shem Yisrael. They're not called. They're not part of Klal Yisrael. Heim yevoshu, they're going to be ashamed. V'Yisrael yismechu, but Klal Yisrael will be happy. Hadron alach elu Metzias. We will return to you parak elu Metzias. This is the end of the second parak of Meseches Babba Metzia. If you're enjoying these videos and this channel, please like, share, and subscribe, and take a look at the description box below to see how you can support this channel. And we will now begin the third parak of Meseches Bava Metzia. And the parak begins with the Mishnah, Hamafked etzel chaveiro behemo kelim. If somebody deposits by his friend an animal or vessels, v'nignevu o sha'avdu, when they get stolen or they're lost, we're talking here about a shomer chinam. The shomer chinam, he's not getting paid. He's not responsible if it's stolen or lost. So shilem v'lo ratzal lishava, let's say he pays and he doesn't want to take an oath. He really is able to exempt himself by taking an oath, because as we said, he's a shomer chinam, but he decides he wants to pay for it. Sharei omru shomer chinam nishba v'yotzi, because they say a shomer chinam could take an oath, and then he goes out, meaning to say he could be pater, but instead he decides to pay. So in such a situation, nimtza haganav, let's say the thief is found, mishalim tashlumei kefil, he has to pay the double payment. That's always true by a ganav. Tavachu machar, let's say he slaughtered or he sold the animal, mishalim tashlumei arba v'chamisha, then he pays 4 or 5 times the amount. And lami mishalim, so the question is, who does he pay to in this case? And the answer is lami shap bikadon etzlo. He pays it to the one who is watching over the deposit, meaning he pays the shomer chinam, because the shomer chinam chose to pay. He chose not to exempt himself, so he therefore gets to receive the tashlumei kefil or the tashlumei arba v'chamisha. Nishba v'lo ratzal l'shaylav. Let's say he takes the oath and he doesn't want to pay. So in that case, nimtza haganav, if the thief is found, mishalim tashlumei kefil, he pays the double payment. Tavachu machar, if he slaughtered or sold the animal, mishalim tashlumei arba v'chamisha, he pays the 4 or 5 times the amount. And lami mishalim, to who does he pay? Lebal ha'pikadon, to the owner of the pikadon, because in this case again, the shomer chinam exempted himself from paying. He took the oath, therefore the payment goes to the owner of the item. And Rashi explains, hamafkid v'lo ratzal lishav, again he doesn't want to take the oath, instead he wants to pay. Shvuas shomrim, this is the shvua that a shomer takes, shelo pashaba, that he was not negligent, v'shelo shalach bayad, that he didn't use the item inappropriately, sheyayacholi pater b'shvuazu shari amr, because really he could have exempted himself with this shvua, as they say that's what a shomer chinam can do. Lamisha pikadon etzlo, so then the payment is made to the person who the deposit was by, to the shomer, to kaven the shilem konakal tashluma. What it means is since the shomer chinam paid, he now acquires any payment that's going to come in for this item. Uva Gemara mefarish time, and the Gemara will explain the reason. And the Gemara says, Lama leila misni behema v'lama leila misni kelim. Why does the Mishnah have to talk about a case of an animal that's deposited, and also the case of vessels that are deposited? And the Gemara says, Shrichi, the Gemara says it's necessary to teach both. The Itana behema, because if it only taught us by an animal, have a behema hu demakni like feil. I would say by a behema the owner gives over the kefil payment to the shomer who chooses to pay. Mishum de nafish tircha, because it's a lot of work to take care of an animal. Liyula lafuke, to bring it in, to bring it out. Aval kelim, when it comes to vessels, however, the lo nafish tirchai, which are not hard to take care of. Ema lo makni like feil, I would say that the owner doesn't give over the kefil payment to the shomer. V'itana kelim, and if the Mishnah only taught vessels, have a kelim hu de kamakni like feil, I would say by vessels the owner gives over the kefil payment. Mishum de lo nafish keflayo, because the kefil payment, that double payment, doesn't get too large. Aval behema, but when it comes to animals, the chitavachu machar, that if the person who stole the animal slaughters or sells the animal, mishalin tashlumei dalid vehe, the payment is then a payment of 4 or 5 times the amount. That's a very large payment. Ema lo makni like feila, I might say that the owner is not makna the kefil over to the shomer, so therefore tzricha, therefore it's necessary to teach it by the animal as well. And Rashi explains, the makni like feila, he gives over the kefil, means to say, habaylim maknin l'shomer kefil o asel l'shtalim. The owners give over to the shomer that future kefil that might be paid. Kidamar l'kamon, like we're going to say later on, shabashah shemasr lo lishmor, when he gives over the item to the shomer to watch, al menas kein masr, he gives it over on this condition, shem tigne v'yirtze v'yashalim yehei kefil shalo, that if it gets stolen and the shomer decides he wants to pay for it, the kefil will then belong to the shomer. Amor lo makna like feila lo misar lo now, I might have said that he doesn't give over the kefil. Let's say, for example, we gave over the kefil in the case of the animal. I might say only by the animal it's hard to take care of. Maybe he doesn't give over the kefil when it comes to vessels. Or the other way around, the lo nafish keflayo, by vessels the kefil isn't so large. Shein boinli de arba v'chamisha. The point is you don't come ever to pay 4 or 5 times the amount by vessels. Shein noheges ala b'shor v'seh bilvad. The din of 4 or 5 times the amount, that applies only by a shor or seh. It only applies by an ox or a sheep. And the Gemara continues, Maskif lo Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama asks the following question on the Mishnah in general. We're saying this idea that the kefil, the owner, is makna that future payment over to the shomer. Va'ein adam makna davar shelo bo liolam. But a person cannot be makna. You can't give something over that doesn't yet exist. The kefil payment doesn't yet exist. V'afilu Rabbi Meir damar adam makna davar shelo bo liolam. And even according to Rabbi Meir, who says a person is able to be makna something that doesn't yet exist, hani mili kagon peiros dekel. That's true, let's say, by the fruits of a palm tree. The avidi dasu, those are things that are going to come. We expect that the fruits will grow. Aval hacha, but over here, And Rashi explains, Maskif lo ramya masnisin kamatam. He's asking this question on the Mishnah. Va'ina the makna davar shelo bal yolam. A person can be makna something that doesn't exist. Ve'ich hiknu lo bailam kefil zesh. Adayin lo nischay bo ganav. How is it possible for the owners to give this guy the kefil? The ganav hasn't even been chayiv the kefil yet. V'afil Rabbi Meir damar v'parakimel de kiddushin. Even according to Rabbi Meir, who says in the third parak of kiddushin, harei ad mekudeshes li al menashe es gayer. Person says, you're going to be mekudeshes to me on the condition that I convert. So you can learn from that sheet of Rabbi Meir. Let's say a person sells the fruits of a dekel, fruits of a palm tree lechaver to his friend, but they don't exist yet. That's a machlokas later on between Rav Huna and Rav Nachman. And again, the proper text is those are things that we expect that they will come, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Dalid Amud Aleph.